in our backyard, and I fear we will again one day have a bush in our backyard. It's a barberry bush, which I don't really know much about plants at all. I have a friend who majored in horticulture, and thanks to the miracle of technology, she receives several text messages from me a month with photos of things that I don't know what they are. When we moved into the parsonage 3 years ago, there was this huge bush in one corner of our yard, and I thought it looked nice, but then I got closer and found that it had thorns on it. At that time, we had a very explorative 2-year-old and intended to have more children, and thorns didn't really fit with my idea of a nice backyard for kids. So I asked, when someone had come to do a little bit of work on some of the trees on the property, I asked them if they could get the bush out of our yard. And he said, I'll just cut it down and grind out the stump and it'll be done. And I said, great. So he did that. He just cut it down and ground out the stump, and it was very exciting to watch. Our 2-year-old really thought it was cool. First, the guy climbs a tree and trims some branches, and then he gets this huge stump grinder in our backyard. You know, it's very exciting. And we were done. Problem solved. For like a week. And then I noticed there's this little shoot coming up out of the ground out stump. A shoot from the stump. Not of Jesse, but of the barberry bush. So I took a picture of the shoot and I sent it to my friend Laura, and I said, what is this thing and how do I kill it without damaging the ground around it? Because along with, you know, children and not wanting to have thorns, children also sometimes put anything in their mouths. And so I didn't want to put anything in the ground that they couldn't put in their mouths. And she said, well, that's a barberry bush, and it's going to be difficult if you don't want to, you know, use like some hardcore pesticides. So for the next year or two, every week I would buy an extra gallon of vinegar at the grocery store and an extra couple things of salt. And basically I was making potato chips in our backyard. Salt and vinegar, she said, is a good, it's worth a try, she said. You know, it might not work, but it's something you can do, and it does kill some things. And sure enough, the grass around where the bush used to be all died. But the shoots kept coming. We finally gave up, and, well, didn't give up. We gave up on the salt and vinegar approach. I also tried Epsom salts, boiling water. I mean, everything you can think of that isn't dangerous for a child to ingest, we put on that thing. And it didn't work. And even when the stump stopped getting shoots in the stump, then like 6 feet away, a little shoot came up. It was great. So we built a sandbox with a plywood bottom that is 4 feet by 5 feet, right over the stump. Deprived it of sunlight, we won for like a month. And then we went out to the sandbox one day, and around the side, it didn't, I thought, you know, maybe it'll try and poke straight up. No, it's a clever plant. It came up, and around the side of the sandbox, because it had spent all that time growing sideways, I guess, before it came up, it was no longer a shoot, it was like an inch thick. And I cut it down. We will continue our fight. And one day, perhaps, we will acknowledge that it's going to win, and there's just nothing we can do about it. But maybe by that time, our kids will be older. These shoots that kept coming back no matter what we did, they were thin and wispy and fragile, and some of them, if I caught them early enough, I could just break off by hand. But they're tenacious, and they don't stop. Now, as much as I loathe this bush in our backyard. I feel fortunate that we don't have another plant growing in our property that is called Japanese knotweed. I happened upon, those things that pop up in your news feed or on, the side of a website, and it says like something ridiculous and you just have to click because, you'll never believe what this person found in their dining room one morning with a picture of a plant. And I'm like, well, I'm pretty sure they would know if they had a plant in their living room, or their dining room. Like, they would have put it there, right? So I clicked, guilty. I clicked on the clickbait. And Japanese knotweed, if you've never heard of it, don't learn about it, don't get it, and run from it. Japanese knotweed is like one of the most invasive species on the planet. And these people did wake up one morning to discover it had broken through their foundation, through their floor, and literally was growing through the floor in their dining room. What? So I do kind of feel lucky that we just have a barberry bush. One little shoot of Japanese knotweed, if they find it on your property value is shot. Nobody wants that house, because that house will eventually be taken over by the Japanese knotweed. There's no stopping it. Short of some sort of, fire bombing or something, like extreme measures. This stuff is tenacious. One little shoot. It jeopardizes the value, the financial value, and also the foundation. It jeopardizes not only can you not sell it anymore, but it may become unstable. So shoots are fragile, but tenacious. Shoots are tiny, but they can alter our course. They can alter what we value in our lives. See what I'm doing here? So the shoot from the stump of Jesse that we hear about in our Isaiah reading, this is what is coming up out of the stump of Jesse. Something that we cannot stop, that looks tiny and fragile, but is not going anywhere. This is Jesus, who we are preparing to welcome in our manger as a tiny little baby. Now, I have babies. I've got 3 of them. I'm sure most, if not all of you, have seen a baby before. Babies are tiny and helpless and fragile. Well, mine aren't so fragile. They come out pretty big. But babies are also tenacious. Babies will not give up. And babies will alter the course of our lives and change our values. This is what Jesus does. When God comes in the form of a tiny little baby who is helpless and fragile and could easily be cut down. God does not give up, and God is tenacious, and God grows even when we don't want him to. And God ultimately changes the course of our lives and changes our values. Now, after the verse about the shoot that shall come out of the stump of Jesse, which sounds so benign at first, but now perhaps you're reconsidering that. Verse 2 says, "The Spirit of the Lord shall rest on him, the Spirit of wisdom and understanding, the Spirit of counsel and might, the Spirit of knowledge and the fear of the Lord." I wonder if those words sound familiar to you. Anybody? Scott?
Confirmation, at least.
Confirmation and baptism.
Baptism, too. Right?
And baptism. At baptism, we pray for that, for our babies, our helpless little babies, or older children or adults, but often in our tradition, babies. We pray for the spirit of wisdom and understanding, the spirit of counsel and might, the spirit of knowledge and the fear of the Lord. when we sprinkle or dunk or douse the baby with water. We are planting a seed. We are watching a little shoot poke up. And we are watering it and nurturing it in us. And maybe because so many of us were baptized as babies, maybe we don't always think about how that little shoot that is planted in us at baptism is trying to change the course of our lives. Maybe we don't always think about the ways in which our baptism is calling us to reconsider what we put value on and what we build our foundation on. And maybe we don't always think about how that baby Jesus is the same as the God that takes root in us. And even as that little baby grows, God is growing inside of us. So I wonder, and I invite you to wonder with me, what are the shoots of God's work that we can find growing in our lives? Perhaps they are welcome, or perhaps they are like a barberry bush. We don't want to do that. We don't want to care about that. We don't want to think about that. We don't want to have that conversation or reach out to that person or support that cause. But it keeps coming back. It's tenacious. The call of God is tenacious. It is tiny, a still, small voice. A voice of one crying out in the wilderness. It is a helpless baby. It is weak and easily cut down. But it doesn't stop. It never stops. This is the work of God in our lives. This is the shoot that comes up out of the stump of Jesse. It is the shoot that is planted in our hearts at baptism. And as we watch it grow, down, we resist the urge to cut it down. I wonder, what could it become? What could we become if we allow that shoot to grow in us and if we grow with each other? This is a time of waiting, a time of preparation. And maybe it's a time of growth.